Recalculating Route, a show about taking a new direction with your life. Here's your host, Christy Atwood.
Hello, and welcome to Recalculating Route. We are so glad you're here. Sarah, you're with me now, huh?
I'm here.
I'm thrilled.
I never left you.
All right. We are so glad y'all have joined us today. We're going to be talking about a serious subject, but, we're going to talk about it in a hopeful way because we think that people probably need some help at a time like this. And so I'm glad that I have somebody very special here to join me on this topic because we're talking about when you lose a pet. And actually, this is kind of interesting because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about from the time when you realize that you're going to be losing a pet all the way through the process and kind of give you some ideas of things that can help and let you know you're not alone. Okay. So Sarah, now Reverend Sarah Whitten Grigsby is an amazing person. And Sarah, one of the things I love is what you're doing with the One More Day Foundation. And that's really the reason I got you on here to talk about this. So would you please explain what the One More Day Foundation is?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So, prompted by a strong desire to give back to animals for all they give to us, in 2016, I founded One More Day, which is a very small nonprofit animal rescue, and we place homeless hospice dogs in loving forever homes. And then the foundation helps to pay for veterinary expenses, anything to keep the animal comfortable, not invasive surgeries or anything like that, partly because we don't want to put a hospice dog through that, and partly because we're not big enough to do that, although there have been exceptions.
Every
dog is its own case. And so I had helped my parents, shepherded my parents from each of my parents from this life to the next, and my dogs were part of my healing process, and my cats. Dogs a little more so for me, just because I've had more dogs than I've had cats. And I wanted to give that back in some way. And I discovered that indeed people in various places were doing dog hospice, and some of them called it fospice, which means foster hospice. Okay. And I liked that word because it was unusual, and it's emblazoned on the back of our t-shirts, and people say, "What is that?" And then you get a chance to explain.
Smart.
Yeah. So that's what One More Day Foundation does. We're headquartered in Sarasota County, Florida, and we're very small, but we at this point have hospice dogs in all over the state. And it has been wonderful work. We place them with volunteer hospice guardians and then provide whatever support is needed to make it easy for the dog and for the hospice guardian. And that human-animal relationship that develops is amazing. On our website, onemordayfoundation.com, you can read tributes to these dogs that are incredible, that have to do with mutual healing between the dog and the hospice guardian. So it's difficult work, absolutely, but enormously rewarding.
That is so beautiful. So these animals, you make sure that their last days here are positive, loving days.
Absolutely. And we never know how long hospice is going to be. We have dogs that have lasted for over 2 years now, and cats, mostly dogs. And we have the shortest period of time that we had a dog for was a week. And it's hard, very hard. But that dog had 7 days of absolute love, loving care. And that's what we focus on. From love he went, and to love he shall return.
And you know what? That's exactly what we're talking about when we start realizing that our pets might be on their way out. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is what you're talking about here is the love that you're giving them and making sure their last days are good. Yeah. Can you get us started on this process? Like, okay, I'll say I have a dog who's getting older now, and I know that I'm getting closer to that time. And you called it anticipatory grief one time when we were talking.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
So anticipatory grief is what happens when you see the signs that your beloved pet is in decline. And it's, it's so hard to justify because their lives are too short as it is, especially dogs. Some cats, of course, can live to 25, which is amazing. But with dogs, an already too short life is going to be shortened. And so the grief that comes in for that, what I think of as a painfully prolonged goodbye, can be even more intense than the grief afterward. And it's inevitable. And I think the thing to do is to try not to get so focused in it that you're in pain all the time, and your pet can feel that. I have a dog that was diagnosed with cancer 6 months ago and is doing okay, but I had to stop myself from looking at him every time I walked by him, which is many times a day, especially during social isolation. I mean, social distancing and isolation.
Right.
Many times, and saying, "Oh my gosh, he's dying. He's got cancer." And
Oh,
one day I just said to myself, "Okay, that's enough. That's not helpful to him because he's very smart and he's probably feeling your vibes, and it's not helpful to you." So I try not to do that. The thing is to stay in the moment and to give the dog as much, and cat or bird or any pet you have, the best, most loving care. They are not worried about their mortality. It's harder for us than it is for them. As far as we know, they are not sitting around going, "Oh, I'm going to die." We're the ones who are doing that. So stop it. So
why aren't we smarter than animals? We're not smarter than animals.
I'm not, I promise you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's what anticipatory grief is.
Okay. So one of the things is not to live in that at all times, to
Yeah.
enjoy the time and not focus on it, huh?
Yes, and you have to constantly remind yourself. It's like a meditation exercise. Stay in the moment, and the moment is okay usually, or it might even be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is before a pet has started what we call actively dying, which we can talk about in a minute. But this is just when your pet has been diagnosed with a terminal or untreatable or life-limiting illness, or is also very old. Usually the things go together, but not always. And so the thing is, stay with it, be your best self, and don't get stuck in grieving so terribly.
This is very much, well, I can see why caregiving actually prepares you for this, with a family member. It's very much the same sort of thing you go through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
this is very interesting. Okay. So, okay. Now we get closer to the time.
Yes. Now we begin to look for the signs that, the end is imminent. It could be still some weeks out, could be days out. And people will tell you, I was told this so many times when my first and most dearly beloved dog died about 3.5 years ago. He will let you know. She will let you know. And I thought I understood that in theory, but I didn't understand what it would look like. And in fact, that did happen with me. My dog had cancer. He had lymphoma. We had him for 9 weeks after he was diagnosed. And one weekend he sank. His back legs stopped working. And I thought, okay, here it comes. So we scheduled in-home euthanasia, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then he rallied. So we postponed it. So about 2 nights later, he came up to me for some love. I touched him very gently and he screamed. It was a
Oh,
scream because he was in so much pain. So I
oh,
knew immediately there was no question. So in any event, there are things to look for. Some you can find online, depending on who you like to follow and listen to, a list of life qualities to look for when you can tell that the end is near. For example, and you will know some of these already, but obviously if your pet stops eating when you know your pet is ill, that's a huge indication.
yeah. They just kind of. I've noticed, and you're trying to make them keep eating, and they're not going to do that.
And they're not going to. And that's a huge one because, most animals, and certainly dogs, will eat themselves silly, mostly. So if they've stopped eating, that's a real heads up. It's when the suffering outgrows when the suffering days outnumber the good days. So maybe they can't get outside to eliminate anymore. That's a big one. If they've always gone outside, fine to eliminate. Depression, if they're lethargic, if the quality of life for them is clearly not good anymore, then you desperately do not want them to suffer. And so those are some of the things to look for. And as I said, you can Google and whatever resonates with you in terms of the signs, but it's pretty obvious. And then sometimes they really will tell you it's pain, and there's whimpering, which means severe pain, or just a look that says, I've had enough. I've had so many pet owners say that to me, that she just gave me that look. I've had enough. So that's kind of, the second step when active dying has started. Ouch.
Yeah. Okay. So, and noticing that is happening, and even noticing if it's not that extreme, noticing they're having more bad days than good days, and the progression has begun, and you can tell.
Yes, and then the main thing becomes not to prolong the suffering.
And that's the thing I always worry about. It's like, I don't want them to be in pain. I don't want them to go, but I don't want them to be in pain. And that is such a hard call to make.
That's the hardest thing right there. And because they can't tell us, we can be as close to them as it is possible for a human and a non-human creature to be. And still they can't say, okay, I'm really in pain now and I'm really tired. And so that is the fine line, and hopefully it comes to you clearly.
Yeah.
And usually it does, but not always.
Okay. All right. So we get to that point, and we see that it's time to do that. Euthanasia. I don't even like saying the word, okay? But
No, I can tell.
yeah. So how about getting through that process? Because I know I was a whimpering mess. Okay, I broke down. Poor husband had to just about carry me out of the room. Can you tell me about that, and how any way that you could make that better?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things to consider. And what we try to do for our foundation foster hospice dogs, is we offer the option of in-home euthanasia. And it's not for everybody. Obviously, it's expensive. In some places, outrageously more so. It's not something that everyone can afford. And a lot of people don't necessarily want it. They may feel, they have other family members in the home who could not handle it, or they have other animals they'd rather not have around, although there is a theory. Some people feel that it's much better if your animals are around, because then they don't, if you have other pets, because then they don't spend time even a year afterwards sometimes looking for that animal who's died. So that is a very personal decision. So for euthanasia, which has improved, it's not, it's improved like so many medicines, because first there's an injection to put the dog to sleep, literally, just sleep. And then the second injection to stop their brain, which stops their heart, which etc. It didn't used to be that first injection, I don't think, was always there. So you want it to be peaceful. You want someone who's skilled, and you may have to, look around for that. But if that's not, the way you want to go, the most important thing is that you are with your beloved pet during that moment of transition. Go to the clinic, the animal hospital, as long as you are with your animal. If your pet is suffering and can't be touched, just be be within view. An anonymous vet wrote an article not too long ago in which she said all they want to see is you. So please don't hand it over to someone else. Don't not be there, because then you may have regrets, and regrets will kill us. So if you don't want to do in-home euthanasia, and there are reasons not to, just make sure you go, and maybe you and your spouse, your partner, your children, your whole family, and go be in the room with your beloved pet as he or she is transitioning to the lovely thing that comes after, I'm convinced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything's got to be easier than this, right?
You got that right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So, and that is better knowing that they actually do they put them they give them the things to help them sleep before they do it, because it used to be very different from that. I
Yes.
know.
Yes. Right.
Okay. Okay. So, um, we make it through this, and yes, I probably still am a blubbering mess,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
okay, people have a lot of different ways they memorialize their pets to make them feel better as far as their remains and things like that. What are some of the things that you've seen that have helped people be able to handle this better?
So some people would like to have their pets' remains with them afterward in the form of ashes.
Mhm.
Some people do not want that for whatever reason. And where I live in Florida, it is legal, which it was not in New York where I lived before this, to bury a pet in the backyard. Which we have done with one cat, Krabby Kitty, who was one of my hospice cats, who I loved dearly. We have a whole shrine out there. And let me just back up for one moment to also say, when you are having euthanasia, if you have it at home, you can have any kind of ritual that makes you feel comforted. And what we did with my beloved dog Wessex was we got him very stoned on veterinary Xanax. I always want to say Zantac. That's
No, that wouldn't do it.
that
Xanax would
wouldn't
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah, okay.
He got, and he was so relaxed. He was lying down in the living room. I put candles in his dog bowl, and he was just staring at the flickering flames. And I had on ocean sounds in the background.
Ooh.
And it was all so incredibly peaceful, and I could see he wasn't suffering or fearful. And the veterinarian that came was very skilled with euthanasia, and I didn't see a flicker or a flinch when he gave the injection. So
Oh.
you may, as far as finding that vet, you need to have a little plan in place in terms of the vet you're going to use, and then in terms of what you want with remains. So back up to remains. Some people find it enormously comforting to have the remains returned, and that means private cremation and
Mhm.
return of remains. And that is not horribly expensive.
Oh, that's
I
good.
have
Okay.
found that that's pretty affordable. However, some people don't want remains, and that's fine. Then you would either have the vet take away, if you're having in-home euthanasia, take away the pet's remains, or if you're at the vet, then they keep the remains. So, and obviously, I guess there is a small charge for that. So, and maybe in some places it's expensive, but it hasn't been in our experience so far. So, or if you are in a place where it's okay, where you can quietly bury your beloved pet near you in the backyard, or it's legal to do so, then that's fine too. So, I had help from my husband. We dug a little grave for Krabby Kitty there's a beautiful Norfolk pine out there. And then I put a statue out there, which is lit up at night. so if
Oh.
you can eulogize it any way you want.
Uh-huh.
Some people want to have a paw print returned,
Oh.
and keep that. There are so many options. And if you take your dog to a pet crematory, there's some lovely ones, and they're so sensitive and so good, and they will tell you what the options are in terms of, some people keep a little bit of fur. I haven't done that. And so it's up to you. It's whatever makes you feel good in the way that you want to honor that pet, and it is to honor the pet.
So it also gives you kind of a sense of closure, it seems to me, having something like that.
Yeah.
And that would be a big one, because that's one of the things that I find after a pet passes. It's that feeling of everywhere you look, you're still seeing that pet in the corner. You know, it's like out of the corner of your eye, you're constantly seeing them. That you're passing where they ate, you're passing all those places. So it's still so wide open to you for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I will, again, to back up just a minute and then to come back
Okay.
to lead into what you just said. When my husband returned from the pet crematory, this was a week or so after Wessex had died, and handed me Wessex in a gift bag, I had a moment of thinking, this was a big mistake. It was it was a shock. It was so elegantly, beautifully presented, but I thought, my dog is in a gift bag. And that was very hard. However, once I got past that pretty quickly, it has been a huge source of comfort to have his ashes in a beautiful little carved wooden box in our master bedroom. It's a great source of comfort because I sort of feel as if I can protect him there, or I know where he is, or I know it's just his remains. It's not his soul and all the beautiful qualities. But so that has helped me, and certainly helped me in the months and weeks afterward. But when you've lost a pet and you think, this is harder than when I lost my beloved aunt so-and-so, I must be nuts. I had that experience, and I was up in the night when Wessex was dying and thinking, I have gone mad. This is harder than feels like it's harder than when my mother died and I adored what is the matter with me? And I came upon a wonderful article. I think it was in Psychology Today. I'd like to give credit where credit is due, but I'm not 100% positive, about why is it that our lives afterward can feel so enormously differently empty. And until time has passed and we've gotten back into a routine. And if we have other pets, that comforts us greatly. And the article used a phrase which I've used ever since, and it was saying how it is more difficult for many people to lose a pet than a human. So I thought, okay, I'm not nuts.
Thank goodness for that. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Or if I am, it's not about this. So, and then it said animals like dogs, for example, are our life witnesses. And that to me was such a beautiful and profound phrase. Right?
That's so perfect.
It's so perfect because what it says is they are with us, for many of us, more than anyone else. They are with us daily. I don't like leaving my animals, so I don't travel. I haven't traveled since I had them, only a tiny bit. And so they have lived with us through enormous chapters of our lives. Even if it's a dog that only lives for 9 years, as opposed to a cat that lives for 18, that's a huge chunk of our life that they have shared. And when they go, they take it with them. And they should take it with them because it includes all the love and everything that they so richly deserved. However, they take a part of us with them. There's no question. It doesn't mean that we can't have those memories. And that we didn't benefit hugely and that we would ever have traded it for anything, because we wouldn't. But that, as I said, when Wessex died, it wasn't that I said my heart was broken. I said my torso was missing. It was like a whole huge piece of my center was gone.
Yes, I can understand that. Well, you think about it. Your pet is there and sees you at your unguarded moments. Before you put on the face that you use to face the world. They know the real you more than anybody else would. And of course, it's perfect that my bird is screaming in the background. But yeah, so they really do. They know us. And I think that makes that connection that much stronger.
Absolutely. There's a kind of symbiosis. I was just thinking, I do have a husband, but when I nap in the afternoon, I'm spooning with my big dog.
Nothing against Les, right?
Nothing against Les, but and there's a real symbiosis that happens. When I got my first dog, Wessex, 14 years ago or so, I remember thinking he was, he was a puppy. He was shredding my life to pieces. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the first few days I thought, I can't do this. This is terrifying, but I can't take him back. That would be horrible. And then one afternoon, he napped with me on the bed. He napped against my thigh, and then he was in my bloodstream from that moment on. I couldn't live without him. So there's a primal attachment, and it is different from that we have with humans. Plus, they are our children, our pets, and it's not to compare them with human children. That has nothing to do with it, but they rely on us for their survival, and they are totally dependent on us. And in that way, they are our children.
Very good point. Oh, this is beautiful. You know what? I'll let you breathe a second, and I'll look at a couple of these comments that we've had, because we've had a whole bunch of those on Facebook. I love that. Yeah, Christina, they do. They know us and see us in our weakest moments. Absolutely. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, so many people. Oh, the paw print ornament was her favorite. Those are very pretty, aren't those?
Yeah.
I like that. And then we've had a lot of people who've talked about their experiences and not being able to see. Oh, I'm sorry, Christina. She wasn't able to see her dog in those last moments because she was filling out the paperwork. Oh, bless you. That had to be so hard. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and that's not your fault that happened, but intention was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's sometimes it's almost like they decide, that you're not going to be there, and you never
that's
know.
why you need to go in firmly and with a plan. You do. You need to go in and say, this is the vet I want. This is who I want with me, and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, you got to stand up, because not all vets are wonderful. Many of them are, not all of them, and not all of them are paying attention to your best interests or that of your pet. You've got to find the one that does.
We should have this discussion with them before things are imminent.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they're not the right vet, we need to find somebody who can handle this.
Absolutely. And you recommendations, talk to people. Did you have a vet? Did you have euthanasia that was peaceful? Do a little bit of research. I know it seems daunting, but it isn't really. It's not hours and hours of research.
That good. Okay. Oh, yeah. So I'm seeing Diane says that they have placed vets in their area. I think she's in Texas, where the vets will come to your house when it's time to go. I have never heard of that here in my area, but I will start looking for that, actually.
Yeah, and you can ask. My partner, my sidekick, I call her, in the foundation, just lost her beloved Phosphus dog. And she, instead of using one of the vets that we have used for in-home euthanasia, she just asked her vet, would you come to the house? And they did, and it was fine. So you can always ask. And also, was it Diane who just mentioned in her area? Yeah. There is a nationwide, I think, organization called Lap of Love that comes to the house, but they are very expensive.
Okay.
We've used them once for the foundation. And I'm sure they're wonderful at what they do, but they are terribly expensive. And so a lot of people can't go that route.
Okay. All right. But these are all considerations and things that we can keep in mind. So it's nice to know that there are options. I mean, I know that losing your pet is not an option, but there are options of things that we can do to make that less painful for us and the pet.
Definitely. You have given your pet a good life, and you want your pet to have a good death. And that's what this is all about. And that is mostly what my foundation is about. Give a beautiful last chapter. This dog or this cat may not ever have had love, or where I live in Southwest Florida, where the median age is 120, just kidding. Oftentimes, an owner of the humans has predeceased the animal. So an animal that is already senior and already ill has now lost everything he or she knows. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say I'm thinking dogs, but pets.
But yeah.
So, the pet is left already senior and in somewhat compromised health. And now its home is gone, its human is gone. So the best thing to do is to just try to get hold of of that pet and give them a beautiful last chapter somehow. Otherwise, they will die alone and afraid and sad in a shelter, which is not the way to go.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not.
But we're not, we're not talking about that so much tonight as we are just
Right, right. Because
yes,
yeah,
if you
the
have a plan,
positive side.
having a plan is comforting.
Okay.
And then not having regrets, that's huge.
Yeah. So having the plan helps us not have those regrets because we've thought up things before we get into that moment where everything's crazy and it's just happening.
Yeah.
And so we've thought through, okay, now I have a number of friends who right now, and I know I've seen some people here who've gone through it recently, their pet has passed. And they're at that point where, we're still posting pictures of our pet. We're still, we're still missing them. We're constantly looking for them in a way.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that help us through those times? I saw somebody on here actually said she was sleeping with a stuffed dachshund when her dog when she had her, and I you know what, that would be very comforting to me.
Absolutely. Whatever it takes. So, this is the hard thing. There's no way through it being grief in this case, except through it. However, the things that can comfort you, and sometimes I call this, cold comfort has become one of my favorite or most used phrases, are things like knowing your beloved pet is not suffering anymore. You gave that pet everything. And yes, in this case, then it becomes all about those of us who are left behind. However, you have to, if you can, you have to let time pass and let it unfold organically. Nobody can tell you that you should stop. It's time to snap out of it, or it was just a dog.
Oh my gosh, I hate hearing that. I was just an animal. Oh
Yeah.
no, get out of my face.
Yeah.
This,
Anyone who says that doesn't get it. It just doesn't get it. That's all. It's
or
so
get another one.
yeah, right.
That's not the answer. That's
right. I have to say, when Wessex died, that people knew that it was going to be staggering for me, and nobody ever made an insensitive comment. Nobody. People sent sympathy cards, but it was from years of watching me, doting on whatever creatures were in the house, and so. But people can say insensitive things, and that only comes from ignorance and lack of experience. I don't think it's meant to be cruel.
I don't think so either. They're trying to find their way to snap you out of it, and they think this is the way to do it. And
you can't snap out of it. You will know when the time has come to get another pet. Sometimes that time is right away, and sometimes it's not for years, and that too is entirely up to you. But I think that the only answer, unfortunately, for the deep grief that comes is to let it unfold. And when you're in a lot of pain, I always advocate for trying to distract yourself. Really. I mean, if you're sunk down in it, in depression and grief, try to distract yourself with something, anything that you enjoy.
that makes sense.
And it sounds, I don't know, it sounds somehow trite, I guess, but get out into nature. Maybe you could spend some time with someone else's pet for, a little bit, or one that you know and are attached to. Try to focus on the lovely memories and the fact that there's always hope that you might indeed have another animal, and that no matter what happens, nothing can ever erase the beautiful times you had with that pet. No matter what, no one can ever take that away from you. But that's a tough question to answer. There's no easy way except to let it unfold and let time pass, and then look toward the hope of the future and possibly loving another animal or pet.
I think that our mindset is really important as far as, in the world of people, it's okay. We think it's okay. We give people lots and lots of time to recover from a loss of a loved one. And we need to accept that it is the same thing. A pet is just like that. We need to give people that grieving time and understand that it's, this is something they got to work through, and there's not a time limit.
Exactly. And if we are dedicated, devoted pet lovers, we know they're fully integrated family members. They have huge personalities, and when they go, there's a huge hole. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, you have to get through it. One of the people here, have to let the time pass, and that's agonizing, I know. And so it takes some people longer than others, and so be it. I will tell you that as devastated as I was, after Wessex died, that he was, 9 weeks we had him between his cancer diagnosis and the day we had him euthanized at home. The next day, I had some moments of relief. I think I had been in so much pain with anticipatory grief and everything else for all those weeks. And when he was gone and I was out in the backyard shrieking, and then the next day, I felt some relief, like, oh my God, now I can start to heal. And that is a comfort. You can say, okay, the worst part is behind me now. And now I can start to let the time pass and to heal, to recover. And you will, but you'll never, you'll always have that love, and you'll always miss that dear pet, but not so that it's painful all the time. I think of Wessex every day, but I'm not in pain about him.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let me see here. While we're starting to kind of wind down a little bit here, so I just wanted to put up my little slides here too, because I thought we need a little humor at the end of this to start bringing us back up. The thing is, I think the thing that we want to remember is, like you said, we want to make sure that we take our time going through this process. We grieve as much as we want to, because doggone it, these pets were nicer to us than a lot of people are, and we celebrate the lives of our pets just as much as we do anybody that we know. And I like that. I like the fact that you talked about the whole thing about making sure that you're preparing for it, but you're not spending your entire time looking at the animal going, oh my gosh, you're dying. That pet is really not going to appreciate that, I don't think.
What?
Wait, what did you say? so no, instead being able to, enjoy that time with them. But then, like you were saying, noticing when there are more days that are positive or negative, and being able to tell when it's getting close to that time, think these things out ahead of time. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I was looking here. Let's see. Anticipatory grief is the worst. I agree. And yes, Brenda, pets love unconditionally. I'm just giving you a couple of these comments folks have here. Let's see here. I'm looking at some of this stuff. It comes up a little late on Facebook, from Facebook to us. Let's see here. Okay. Yes. Still crying. Let's see here. That, okay. A lot of people talking about how difficult it was after those moments before and right after. And I think that's one of the things that we need to know, that there are other people who understand us too, which is something I think is really important, to know that other people really get it. They know that this is a hard time for us, and they will help us through that. In some ways, I love Facebook for that.
I was going to say one great comfort, just quickly. I believe that our pets, as we do, go to an exquisite place after this. I cannot tell you exactly what it is. I'm an interfaith reverend, by the way. And that they are in a lovely place, that they are able to sort of look upon us, that they walk beside us or fly beside us or whatever, crawl beside us, depending on what they were. And we're in their hearts and they're in our hearts, and that we will all be reunited eventually. And if you do believe that, that's a great source of comfort. Not saying that you should believe it, but I think that they are divine beings, non-human creatures, and that they go to a lovely place, and that's should be a great source of comfort to us.
I'm definitely with you on that. This has been a really nice talk. I hope that this has brought a little bit of comfort to some folks. who have gone through this or are going through this. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you talking with us about this today, Sarah.
Anytime. I'm here always for questions or thoughts or comfort.
I'm looking to see if anybody has any questions. You can post that on Facebook right now, and I'll keep an eye open. It will take me a couple of seconds before it shows up. It's this lag thing. But so if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to share, please drop those in. And Sarah, oh, you had something else I forgot about. You have a dog, Precious, that is up for an award,
Yeah.
right?
One of our fospice dogs who is with her, what we call a fospice guardian. And if you joined us later, fospice means foster hospice, but our commitment is through the end of life, through last breath. So it's not foster as in temporary. So we have a fospice dog in Jacksonville, and her fospice guardian entered her in America's Favorite Pet contest, and she could win $5,000, and she will use the platform to talk about One More Day Foundation, which is our hospice foundation for homeless hospice dogs. And this dog, when we got her out of a Miami-Dade shelter, I saw a video that I thought would crack my heart in half. And then she hit the lottery, that she is so loved. And she's already been with Mel, who's her fospice guardian, for a year and a half, I think. So she's doing very well. So, and her hospice guardian has been fighting through aggressive breast cancer this year. So we would love it if this dog won. And the money is not to come to us, I don't think. I don't want it to. We want Mel to have it, and Precious. Her name is Precious, the doggie, and she is precious. She has white eyelashes.
So if you get a chance, go to America's Favorite Pets and look on there, and you'll find Precious on there. I don't think there'll be another Precious.
Yeah, she's wearing a red hat. You got to see it. It's awesome.
Precious wearing a red hat. Okay, that should narrow it down for you. Please go give a vote to Precious. And and thank you very much for being with us, Sarah, today.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, y'all, we appreciate y'all being here today, too. Thank you so much for being a part of this program. And want to remind you that we'll be back next Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central Time. And until then, don't be afraid to recalculate your route.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Recalculating Route. Join us next Wednesday evening at 6 Central